Straw Hut Media.
Get out of the water! Get out of the water! There's a new episode of Release Date Rewind, so seriously, get out of the water. Hi, everybody. Thanks for checking out my podcast today. Summer isn't over yet. The water is still warm-ish, and sharks are still swimming throughout New England near me in Maine and Massachusetts, which is scary, terrifying. I will stick to the pool. See you later. Although, fun fact, I used to think a baby shark was in my pool growing up when I would swim in it alone, which is hilarious and embarrassing. But hey, this is a safe space, right? We can be honest. Cool. I'm your host, Mark J. Parker, a movie lover and a movie maker, and this is episode 101 of this indie, self-produced, AI-free show, which is part of the Straw Hut Media Network and the You Run Podcast Network. I like to bring friends here to celebrate favorite movies of the past for their big anniversaries, and boy, do we have a mammoth of a movie to celebrate for its 50th anniversary. On June 20th, 1975, Steven Spielberg's Jaws swam into theaters and changed the way we look at the ocean, sharks, and at Martha's Vineyard, which I just visited for this movie's special Golden Anniversary weekend earlier this summer, and you'll hear more about that great trip in a minute. So, grab your fellow islanders, wear your swimsuits, and if you'd like to watch or rewatch this classic before listening, Jaws is currently streaming on Netflix and on AMC Plus, and is back in theaters across the country starting this weekend, everybody, August 28th, for at least a week, I think. So you have options to watch Bruce create chaos on the big or smaller screens if you dare. There he is behind me. If you're watching, you can see he's right behind me. That's a blanket we got in Martha's Vineyard. We'll tell you all about it in a second, but peep that. Right? All right, kids. Crush that Narragansett beer like Quint and pause the sea shanties because it's time to rewind. Okay, everybody, I am so happy to see this guest, one of my great friends. She's looking beautiful. She's glowing if you're watching this on YouTube. She's back. She hasn't been on in a while, but Cece Webster is back on Release Date Rewind. Hi, Cece. Welcome.
Hi, I'm JP. I'm so happy to be here to talk about our fun experience with Jaws 50th anniversary.
I know. We just saw each other. I guess we parted ways a little over a week ago. We were in Martha's Vineyard, a place we love. A place I've been to a few times, you've been to now many times, with the Kaufmans. Hi, Kaufmans. I hope after all the chatter of this podcast, the Kaufmans better be listening or watching. Please, right? We have to send them the link, I hope, right?
100% yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. I'm sure they're right there in front of the TV. Hi, I'm waving to you. Hi. But we had such a good time together with Mark and his family, parents, sisters, cousins. It was so great. Thanks so much for inviting me. And it was a really amazing weekend. It was the big 50th anniversary celebration, the screening. There was the reunion day. There was the museum. There was things we didn't even get to because everything was sold out, right? I knew it would be pretty exciting and crazy, but I didn't think it would be so. I mean, when I got off the ferry and met you guys, everyone was wearing their Jaws shirts. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So what do you think of the whole experience? What was it exactly what you thought? Were you thinking more? Were you thinking less? What were you thinking?
I was really surprised at how manageable and kind of quaint and lovely it all was. When, just like you said, I started getting out and we were going to a spot to eat or going through town and seeing how much Jaws love was happening. I thought, oh my gosh, these events we're connected to are going to be insane with crowds. They're going to be unmanageable. It's not going to be fun. And I just have to say that was not the case. I feel like it was kind of just the right amount of excitement. Like there was so much joy and love. And it was also such a bonding thing that was happening when you were walking around. Even though I didn't have as much Jaws attire, like you have your great shirt you're wearing today.
Yep. Got my Amity.
I couldn't help but compliment folks on things because some things were so creative, like purses and hats that were made. And there was so much going on. And it also just made me feel really warm and cozy in terms of how great it is to celebrate art and have something that has lasted this long, that really still has such an impact.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to celebrate it.
Oh yeah.
My love of film is so strong, and it's so nice to see other people in that same boat with me. Pun
Oh, a
intended.
big boat. This was
The
a
big
big boat
boat.
of movie nerds.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And to be with my people,
Yeah.
the other movie nerds, and to have you with me, and
Oh yeah.
also,
I loved it. I loved all of it.
family, like all in,
Mm-hmm.
it was fantastic. But yeah, the events were really well run.
Mm-hmm.
There was so many things to choose from. Although I think the most difficult part is if we hadn't been thinking of it since really February, March,
Yeah, maybe
we
even earlier. I mean,
earlier, we would not have been able to get tickets to the big outdoor screening with
I
the
know.
symphony orchestra. We would not have been able to get tickets to Reunion Day. So I'm also just grateful that we had the foresight to go, hey,
Yeah.
we have to get ready for this, and we have to,
Oh
book.
yeah, because we were booking things in April,
Yeah.
right? After we had
Mhm.
last seen each other. And even by that point, things were already starting to sell out. So we did miss some things, but I feel like we missed nothing. I feel like it was the perfect amount of the
Yeah.
Jaws stuff, but also hanging out at the house, doing our own thing. We
Mhm.
also, everybody, which I'll post, this was really fun. We saw Wes Craven's Grave, not Jaws related, but another horror icon, so that was really special for us to see as well.
Really was. And I will, well, maybe we'll talk about it another time on the pod.
Yeah.
But it was a really beautiful place, and a
Mhm.
surprising, there was some surprises with that
Oh, yeah.
experience too. But yeah, I feel like it was truly a film weekend. It was
Mhm.
just full of, and we were, looking at things in between the times we were at events, whether it was YouTube clips or
Okay. Uh-huh.
interviews. We were really infused. We have so many things we were playing with and getting while we were out. We have commemorative magazines.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
all
Yeah,
these
we have to
things.
show like we bought candles. Everybody now I feel like we're like that kind of show. Like, okay, everybody,
Right.
so we're unpacking or what unboxing. Chrissy's last swim, a bloody candle. I wanted to light it while we were chatting, but then I realized I don't have a lighter. I gotta go buy a lighter.
Oh.
But we have that. We have these hilarious free Vineyard Vines
Yeah.
glasses that will make you. I mean, actually, with my lighting right now, it's not so bad. I think it's harder when you're actually outside in the sun with these. What do you think? Can you see any better than you could before?
Not really. There's these small holes if you're watching on
Yeah.
YouTube. But you can't help. You'll see the Jaws
Oh,
here on the
yeah.
side. We were at the reunion day at the Martha's Vineyard Museum, and
Loved.
Vineyard Vines we're giving these away, and we just had to say yes. I mean,
Oh, of course. I was like, yeah, of course,
Yes.
And what else? We got behind me, we got the Jaws blanket, part of the screening, which was so nice. We got the tote. I would reach to get the tote. I can see it, but big, nice Jaws tote. That swag was amazing. And Alamo put on the screening. We were even saying like that screen,
oh my God.
how rare to see such, I mean, it was so bright that at times I was kind of squinting. It was such a
Mhm.
state-of-the-art, beautiful outdoor screen. Cece used to run the Drive-In Film Festival. Many of you out there I hope, have seen a movie outside. Very rarely are screens really that bright.
Absolutely. It was stunning. And like you said, because of my experience with drive-ins and outdoor screenings, I was expecting it to be pretty dim because we were starting at a certain time of day, and
Right.
the orchestra was starting, and we were all wondering actually, like, how are we going to see the screen really well if it starts at this time? And we were surprised because it was, I mean, I think you said at one point, the light was so strong and the print was so strong that it was almost like Wes Anderson
Yep.
coloring happening in Jaws. But I was all for it.
Oh, I was for it.
Bring me that orange sand. Like, I'm loving this.
It was saturated.
Mm-hmm.
Better keep it saturated. I mean, like, whoa. Yeah, it was colorful, totally, but it was amazing, and I could see everything. I mean, because we had great seats. We ended up having great seats. I know we were nervous, a lot of people, but like dead on. But we weren't like super close. But I could see all the details, right?
Absolutely. And you captured some really great images from that where people, I'm sure we'll post as before this comes out or at the time. It was really surprising too, because we were kind of behind the sound area,
Right.
which was this pop-up tent in the middle. And I was really concerned that we wouldn't have the ability to see the screen fully. And we totally did, especially when it got dark. You know, you could really see, and they did a good job lighting the orchestra. And they also, I have to say, as much as I was kind of grumpy of where that sound area was, because I felt like it probably could have been somewhere else, I really thought they did a wonderful job with the, you know, the whole soundscape of the night.
You're right.
Because they were going in and out of the orchestra. You can imagine, folks, that, you know, they're not playing every single minute the film is screening, because there's lots of scenes that don't have score.
Right.
So they were going in and out of light. Even the light was being dimmed, the sound was being hushed of their mics, and then it would come back on again.
Yeah.
Abruptly. It was great. They really did a fantastic job.
You're right. Yeah. I keep forgetting. I mean, we were there. I like, we saw it with our own eyes. We heard it with our ears, but I keep forgetting that like the music was live. Like that was all, it was just so perfect. It was the Cape Symphony, everybody. Perfect. So fun. And just so fun to experience that with all those people, those famous lines, famous kills, you know, and then that score. It was so cool. I loved it. It was so worth everything, right? And beautiful grounds. It felt very fancy, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt the same. You know, I think that talking about the love of film, I think that the more, as much as I've always been kind of a frugal girl, and, you know, luckily film ticket prices tend to be pretty good, even now if you go on a matinee or you, you know, have
Tuesday nights at Regal.
We're saying, like Tuesday nights at the Regal. But it was a little pricey. We were on the fence.
Yeah, it was a little tough, but you know what? Yeah, right.
Now we had the experience. It was definitely worth the experience, and it's a once in a lifetime moment. I mean, when is the next time we're going to be in the place they shot this film? Right. Like directly beside the beach where most of these beach scenes were shot, you know, outside in a beautiful night with this orchestra playing this amazing score, one of the most iconic scores we've ever known in cinema, together and celebrating with all these fans. And a lot of the people in our crowd were in the film or worked in the film.
Which was so, yes, because that's what's so cool, especially about this movie. Really, any movie that you can see with people that worked on it in the area, that's amazing. But like this movie, which we'll talk about, like took over the island, used so many locals on camera, behind the camera. So that was really cool to see people waving like, who here has worked on the movie, blah, blah, blah. You know, that was really special.
That's exactly how I felt about it. And, you know, there was something too about it. The fact that this island is a place you have to travel via plane, train, or automobile, and then take a ferry to get out there. It was a commitment.
Yeah.
The folks who did come from out of town, it was a commitment. There were people as far away as Europe. And remember, they were asking in the crowd and all over the US. And, you know, we weren't coming from as far.
No.
But, you know, it was definitely, people were there to really take in this major moment of celebration. And it was really joyous. It was so much fun. I mean, how people reacted to things in the crowd and
so
how,
fun.
You know, they were, when they saw Quint, I mean, when Quint shows up, they went banana.
Right. That was a superstar. It's funny because Quint is great. I don't know. I just love Brody. I just love our main character. And like, I mean, they're all great, but yeah, the crowd favored Quint for sure.
Oh.
Who is your favorite character? Do you have one?
I think I really am still a Brody.
Yeah.
But I have a soft spot for Hooper because I think I really fell for Richard Dreyfuss as an actor in my young days after when it was Close Encounters, and then, you know, in Neil Simon's stuff. And I just always thought he was so charming and interesting. But as I get older, I think I really hold on to Brody. But there are so many female characters that I love so much, but we don't get that much of them. So as much as, you know, I have to make sure I have this note here. As much as I love Brody's Mrs. Brody, but also our favorite Mrs. Taft.
Oh, love her.
I mean, she is so amazing. I can't say they're my favorite character in the whole film because, you know, they're not our main trio, you know? So yeah, I think I go with Brody. I also love Roy Scheider. He was a big part. My family were fans of his across the board, not just with Jaws. So he was someone that, like, you know, I knew his name when I was young. I knew, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very captivating lead. And he looks good. And like, He doesn't have to do much on his face to pull us in. I think that's the character, but also it's him, you know? Like, I love, and we'll talk soon about our favorite moments and everything, but I just want to say, I mean, when it's those great cuts of him sitting on the beach and he's getting nervous thinking it's the shark and we're getting closer. I mean, that is just a great sequence. But man, it's just the little baby steps of worry and fear and seriousness on his face. It gets a little bit more intense each cut, you know? Oh, really good. We'll be right back.
There is a creature alive today who has survived millions of years of evolution without change, without passion, and without logic. It lives to kill. A mindless eating machine. It will attack and devour anything. It is as if God created the devil and gave him jaws.
Not to start off the show with like one thing I would have changed, but going back to those female characters.
Yes.
And because I do like Mrs. Brody a lot, and I know she's in the sequels, at least one of them, maybe two, I forget now. I would have been really nice to see her in a scene without her husband or without really talking much about her husband. Still talking about the problem. Like, I don't know, like I just feel like it would have been really interesting if someone took their anger out on her about the chief's decisions, and just to see her in her own element. How does she navigate that kind of thing when it's not her doing? And also she's got to support her husband, you know? So I do kind of wish we just got a little bit more of his wife, because I know we were saying like she doesn't have a ton to do, but she is very good in the scenes she is in, right?
Yeah, she's feels so baked in and real in terms of their relationship, of her being mom to those boys. I'm so sold by everything she's doing, and just how, you know, much she loves her husband, and without her having to say anything really out loud, how this move has been tough on her.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Dude, you know? I feel like we should right now say the line we even said after seeing the movie. We're like, that line is so good. When they're at the hospital with their son, right? Doctor's left, and he said, and Roy Scheider says, all right, take him home, right? Something like that. And she goes, to New York? He's like, no, you know. Oh, she's just like, okay, this is the sign to go, but he can't go, you know, even if he wanted to, he's got to fight this thing and figure it out, you know. But she's like, let's run.
Yeah. And
right?
it's so simplest. There's the simplicity of it, which is it's not 7 lines back and forth. It's not a major argument. Right. It's one little bump of a, oh, you mean to New York? Oh, no. Okay. And that's about it. And it's just that intention we're shown through just that dialogue. One line. Fantastic. I mean, it's just, I miss a lot of writing like that. I think we're not allowed oftentimes now as screenwriters to be able to be subtle. We're asked a lot to broadcast, forecast, you know, and I just think to give that kind of faith to an actor.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And obviously, everybody, I hope you remember Cece in the past. Her last episode was Tootsie, but she is a screenwriter. She loves and knows scripts and talks about them all the time. So, but like you're so right. If this movie was made today, I bet that scene would be even just a little longer with a little bit more dialogue. It'd be like, take him home to New York. He'd say, no, here, wait, you want to go to New York? Well, don't you? It would be a little bit more when it's like, no, what makes it work is that it's almost like a little conversational hiccup of like, oh, you're talking about that on, and then it's like, oh, no, you know, and then it's okay, see you later. It's right. Yeah. Oh, love it. You know, you know what? I just got an idea. Maybe in one of my future acting classes, we'll just do that brief exchange with like partners and just see, you know, how can you say a lot with a little? And I don't know, that could be a really fun little exercise, right? I love that.
Right? I think that's a great idea. Or, you know, speaking of some of our cast in this film, you could even do the plastic scene from The Graduate where it's just that one word and just one line of dialogue and what that is saying to that young guy. Because he's only supposed to be like 20 years old. So I know you work a lot with young folks. But yeah, there's so many great examples of that. And I think a lot of our early film stuff from the 40s to, the 80s. Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's a great idea.
Well, speaking of 50 years ago, everybody, we are officially diving in. Let's go back in time, Cece. We're rewinding to June 20th, first official day of summer of 1975. So I'll just kind of set the scene for you. I'll talk a little bit. You, I'm sure, know a lot of this as well. I want you to chime in. I'm going to just tell the story of how this kind of started. Peter Benchley, of course, wrote the novel Jaws. I didn't know until literally today, just doing some research. I didn't realize the book came out only a year before the movie. Mm-hmm. Whoa, there was not much breathing room. It was just like, it was one of those many situations, as we know, when the galleys of the book are being kind of passed around. The studio got the rights before I think it was even really published, right? So it was one of those kinds of things, very fast. So by the time the book was really on bookshelves, there was already word of like, oh yeah, they're going to make a movie soon, so that was very fast, right? But Peter Benchley, his parents had a house in Nantucket. And so he would summer in Nantucket. And that's apparently where he got the inspiration for the story of a shark. I was about to say of a Jaws, of a shark, terrorizing like a seaside small community or an island, right? And it's funny because fast forwarding to when the crew was going and scouting, he even said, I don't think you need to go to Martha's Vineyard. You want to go to Nantucket. There's not much in Martha's Vineyard, which, to quote Clueless, well, what a snob and a half. I'm just like, what? Okay, Nantucket, right? No, I kid. But so he wrote the book in the early 70s, from 71 to basically, 73. It was out early 74. And the galleys got the attention of the Cosmopolitan editor, Helen Gurley Brown, who was married to Universal producer David Brown, who worked with Richard Zanuck. And so they bought the rights. They brought on Steven Spielberg, who was making a movie, Sugarland Express, with Goldie Hawn. I still need to see that. I've never seen it. You've seen it, I'm sure. You like that one?
Yeah, I do. I think, it's sweet. It's not, doesn't have the gravitas that a Jaws might have, but it's sweet. And same with Duel.
Right.
Very interesting. And, but it still feels like a TV movie.
Yeah. I have seen Duel, but it's been many years, so it'd be fun to rewatch that. But yeah, he was 26 years old. So Cece, you are a director as well. Can you imagine, because I cannot, can you imagine doing all of this big movie, The Buzz alone? I'd be like, ooh, I'm feeling the pressure, right? Can you imagine doing all of this at 26 years old?
Well, no, of course not. I think I was trying to think about, I think I was about that age when I entered graduate film school and moved to New York. And I was I felt like a zygote in terms of what I kind of knew and understood, about filmmaking, let alone, I knew a lot more about film history. But, Spielberg, as we now know of his storied, films he's made and things we've heard about, that he's been obsessed with film his whole life. And, he was early days getting involved with cinema. But, I heard Carl Gottlieb, the screenwriter, one of the screenwriters of Jaws, he talks about how really, because Sugarland Express was critically acclaimed, but really bombed for him, he still was working with Zanuck, and, his agent at the time, Mike Medavoy, said, you have to go in and see what they have, what products, what, actual properties they have to choose from. And you really should think of doing something that could actually have a bit of a box office appeal.
Yeah.
And he was the one who chose Jaws, that, according to Carl Gottlieb, and said, hey guys, I want to do this one next. And they were like, oh, okay. Because the book was doing really well.
Wow.
So I always thought, the way you described it, it was like Zanuck said, here, you should do this one next. I don't know which one's accurate. I'm sure there's probably a record somewhere. Right. But, I thought it was very interesting that Spielberg might have been like, I want to take this on, this undertaking of this script. And I thought that took a lot of chutzpah.
This is Universal's extraordinary motion picture version of Peter Benchley's best-selling novel, Jaws.
There must have been something sparking for him, because the original script also wasn't near as tight and specific. It had a lot more of the adaptation of the book in there. There was a lot of subplots that didn't make it. That he just must have had something. And we know now from Spielberg's history that his early days, he was just hitting into something that we all collectively were interested in, whether it was E.T. coming up or then Jurassic Park a little bit later. There was something that he was clicking, or Indiana Jones clicking into, that was just like, oh, we wanted it. And so he was right on the right. If he chose it or they chose it for him, it was the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just reading a quote that's at the great Martha's Vineyard museum that we were at, that has, for I think the whole summer, the Jaws exhibit, although I know you've been before, there's always a little bit of Jaws stuff there. But everybody, it is a beautiful museum. You gotta go. Really great stuff. But a quote on the wall that I just thought was so funny. It's a Steven Spielberg quote saying, "We must have been complete idiots to have expected to have an easy ride in the middle of the ocean making a movie." I mean, like, it's amazing, because this was the first blockbuster. This is 50 years ago. It's not like, I mean, nowadays we are used to movies like this, right? Big budget, big spectacle, big shocks, So we've learned from mistakes of other productions. We've read stories, but like, they didn't really have much to compare, it seems, with a story like this on the water, So it's really so wild. And it's so cool that A, the movie works, and that B, people they seem to love it even more 50 years later. You know what I mean? It's only getting more popular, it feels like.
I also think that, it's amazing when a film can have such lasting impression that it's being handed down to the kids of the folks who loved it when they were kids. It like just keeps, being introduced to families, and then the cousins, and then who knows, and, growing more fans. But it made me think of something when you were talking about the open water. I was reading a little bit about how prior to this, if you were making something like, in the water, everything else, you were typically going to a tank. You were at a studio. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that Spielberg just kept demanding, I don't know why they were saying yes to him, because it was hard and very expensive. He just kept demanding that it needed to be in the Atlantic Ocean, needed to be in open water. It had to be in open water. And I think that even now, I cannot think of all my friends who are indie filmmakers, my friends who work on films, on crew. I just can't see them letting them shoot on open water for as long and treacherous of a time that he was. And I do think that's one of the reasons too that it is so beautiful and is so powerful in terms of its cinematic feeling, is because they really were there. It is not, we have all this AI stuff going on. It's a really good example of, this is powerful because it's happening right there. I mean, yes, the shark is fake. We all know the shark is fake.
It's still absolutely terrifying. It is so terrifying, right?
Yeah. So I just don't know. I just still so shocked as to why they just kept conceding to him, especially after all the production problems and how many days they were going over.
Right.
They just kept saying, okay, if that's what you're, wanting to do. And there's also something wonderful about that idea that independent, rebellious minds can really make some beautiful work. It can really make a difference, because, I mean, who knows? Maybe Jaws, if it was shot in the studio, would have been, just as thrilling.
Maybe.
But I don't know. There's something really visceral about the Martha's Vineyard itself, the beaches, the ocean,
the coastline shots, and then of course, the basically the final act is all on the water and in the boat. And I mean, when you don't really see anything around, it just adds to the pressure, to the overwhelming dread, Yeah, absolutely. It's really special. Of course, this movie was huge. It's not like it was a cult classic. I mean, it was a box office success. It was a critical success. It went on to win Oscars. It didn't win Best Picture. I looked up what did. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Do you agree with that, or do you wish Jaws did? What do you think?
Well, would you know what else was nominated by chance? Do you have a list?
No, let me look it up real quick while we talk.
I think it's so interesting, because that's putting me in a rock and a hard place here. Because I think that
we ask the hard questions here on.
I know you really do. Milos Forman and that film also really kind of made, I'm sure you probably know too that Michael Douglas was in his company. It was an indie company that produced One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh yeah.
And it was, one of the few first, I think, indies that got such acclaim like that and won. And There's something about that I really love, and I just think the film is amazing. But Jaws is its own thing. I also just think it's so fantastic. I mean, if it was happening right now, I don't know if I could choose which of my children would I choose.
Yeah. Well, here were the three others, because we have One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Jaws, Nashville, Dog Day Afternoon, and Barry Lyndon. So I feel like this is your like.
Whoa.
Yeah.
These are.
This is your letterboxed like 4 or whatever.
Top 5.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh, it's interesting too because Roy Scheider was also in Dog Day Afternoon.
Oh, was he? Okay.
And I'm just thinking about
how funny.
Wow. That is a loaded year.
That was a hot year. Yeah, 75.
Talk about auteur directors. Just so much amazing creative talent going on there.
I just found out that a girl got killed here last week, and you knew it. You knew there was a shark out there. You knew it was dangerous, but you let people go swimming anyway.
I don't know if I've actually seen Nashville. I know, it's crazy.
Gosh, well, I didn't even talk about Altman, who's just one of my favorites.
Nashville's huge, right?
I love Nashville.
And it's so funny seeing the directors that were nominated. All of them were the same except for Spielberg. He was not nominated. Instead, it was Fellini for a movie called Amarcord, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So
what a year.
I guess they thought like, Spielberg, he might be a fluke. He's only late 20s by then, mid 20s. So
well, I'm sure that the Academy and also across all the different academia, they were probably amazed at what Jaws had done box office and probably enjoyed the film, but probably felt like it didn't hold up to some of the other gravitas of, some of these bigger Academy movies. But, if you break it down and you just look at it piece by piece, if you don't look at the actual content of it being a shark movie, I mean, it's so beautifully made and directed and
definitely
in every step of it. So, wow, what a great year. I now feel like I have to go back and revisit 1975 as a year in general. In terms of like what else came out that year. If those are the top 5.
Yeah, right.
What else was happening?
Yeah, it was a pretty amazing time when you think of memorable movies that have really lasted the test of time. So, yeah, but it's funny going back to what you were saying about how like I wonder why the studio was just sort of conceding to Spielberg. It is interesting because maybe you read this too. I forget where I read it, but Joe Alves, who I believe was the production designer, and we saw his name a lot at the museum, and very involved. He really ended up, it seems like, doing more than just production design. I mean, he was scouting the island. He was really very involved. He was one of the first people hired on the crew, but he was quoted saying that the studio, I guess, even though they were pumping money into it, they didn't really like have a lot of faith in it. So like that's why they didn't hire like an actual locations manager or team. Like they just sort of had like, there were people that kind of doubled up on some positions, kind of like an indie, even though it wasn't indie. So it is interesting how maybe they just sort of thought like, yeah, this is a big deal, but it could also be a total mess, which I mean, it kind of was, and we can talk more about that. But yeah, it's just, you would think because maybe they were cautious, you would think they would say no more, but they didn't. So it's interesting.
I in some of the things I read, they were consistently talking about how Zanuck was so stingy, didn't put you up in a nice hotel, didn't have nice food, didn't give the perks of a lot of studio heads. I mean, he was very tough. But I think also you're onto something there, where I think that the total budget for Jaws was still so much smaller than what they were maybe giving to other productions, that the fact that like he's like, well, I want to be on the water. It's like, well, go for it, kid, because that's your budget, and if you're going to do that, good luck. I hope it works out, but it's still not near as expensive as some of the other projects, which is also why there were so many people doing double duty and folks doing free or very low paid extras and day players and all that kind of fun stuff. So I think they were cautious, but also like, well, it's not that expensive.
Right.
We're
Yeah,
not
because
actually spending that much,
I just looked it up. Some sites say $9 million was the budget, which back then I just did some website. What was 9 million in 75 compared to today? Today it would be around 53.7 million. So that's definitely something, but I guess for them.
But when you compare to, I wonder what the new Jurassic Park budget
God.
is.
Yeah, totally. Right. Like 200 something.
Yeah, exactly. So it still has that. It's still probably, a quarter of what like a blockbuster would now
totally
cost.
Yeah.
How much does Sinners cost? It's like, I'm curious,
Right.
what these films cost. But yeah, there obviously was some support there, but because they were also not in the West Coast, they were off on this little island. Things were very inexpensive, I think, in terms of locations and everything. And Spielberg stayed in a house that most people were staying in houses and cottages.
Right.
And there was some hotel expense, as we know.
Yeah, I read that whatever hotel they stayed at, I forget now. I didn't write it down. Was it the Harborview? Oh, that's right. Yes. The owner was so apparently grateful that he got this big influx of money from them, because I guess he was going through renovations and things were looking a little stressful. So came at the right time. I love that. But yeah, they really took over. Mostly it seems like Edgartown was like where their base kind of was. They seem to really shoot in spots all over the island, it looks like. But Edgartown was sort of, it seems like the main hub for Jaws, right?
Definitely. And it makes sense because it's got a little bit more of, looks like governmental buildings and those kind of things. Even now, I mean, it's so not changed that much at all, even from 1975. We were watching a video someone put together of, here it is now today in 2025, and here's what it looked like before. And so many of the buildings, they're exactly the same. They might be using for a different purpose. Like,
right.
They might not be a courthouse or something like that, or those streets, but they've done a really lovely job on that island of holding to the kind of, original beauty.
Yeah. Yeah. And we were saying that too. Absolutely. Things have changed, but like the heart and the soul of it is all very similar when you compare it to this movie, and everybody, it was fun. Even like unofficial stuff that Cece and I did with Mark. We drove by Brody's house. We found his house, which I feel like we didn't really plan to drive by. Did we just?
No, it was just, we were going that direction.
And we were like, wait.
We had just seen the film and had been at the museum.
Right.
Had this whole reunion day, and we were like, hold on a minute. We now know this has got to be over here at East Chop, and we're driving that way. And
that was really fun. We're like, was it this house? Is it that one? Right. But his house, right? Did we figure out it was the guest house of the main house that's there now?
Yeah. It's definitely, we found the spot that the actual buildings aren't necessarily the same.
Yeah. Things have changed.
A little bit, but when you look at if you guys remember those who are listening, watching, if you remember when Brody leaves his house for the first time to go into his office, there's this long kind of winding road beside the ocean. And that, I think you took some images of it too, almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
As it did in 1975.
Totally.
It's a beautiful day. The beaches are open and people are having a wonderful time.
Okay, in your own words, I think everyone knows what the story of Jaws is, but give me the log line, your own, elevator pitch. What is Jaws about?
Oh, I always forget about this part that I should probably prepare for this and write the log line.
It's fun to just, it.
Can we think about how I would describe Brody in the best way? Newly appointed sheriff from the big city is shocked and appalled when a shark attack happens in his tiny island town, and has to overcome all kinds of obstacles to decide how to keep his community safe while jumping into the water with a team of very odd ducks to try to shake down the shark and kill it to save his town. Not the best log line, off the cuff.
Love it.
That's basically what we got going on there.
I love the aquatic animal theme with like ducks and shark. Like that was pretty great. Yeah, because you're right. They are odd ducks. It's a very fun, odd. I think what makes the movie have some real kind of heart is the trio. They're all like these three guys. Like if it wasn't for a shark, they probably would never, right?
No,
and that is, and I
come into each other's,
right.
faces.
Right. And I guess that's also less the movie's contribution and really the book that, Peter Benchley's ideas of these characters coming together. That is pretty smart, And I forget, I asked you, but I forget. Did you ever read the book?
No, I never read the book. I was thinking about maybe digging in a little bit to it here, but I felt like, having read some of the differences but in the adaptation, right. I thought, I kind of want to hold on to the Jaws that I first met, which is the Jaws of the screenplay. Yeah. And, I'm looking forward to chatting a little bit about the adaptation process too, because it was an interesting one.
Yeah, tell us.
Well, it's interesting because, like we were talking about, if it's true that Spielberg plucked this script off of a desk at Zanuck's office and said, this is the one I want to do. It had already been adapted by, I have the name here, Howard Sackler. So Howard Sackler had done the major big brunt of the work of adapting the novel to the screenplay. And that was the base of what they were using and what, Spielberg read. And of course, I think Spielberg felt pretty good about it. I mean, he definitely was interested enough to want to direct it, but felt like there was some stuff in there that, it wasn't exactly hitting everything for him. But they had already started pre-production, already getting into it. And so Mike Medavoy was Spielberg's agent. If you don't know about Mike Medavoy, he's a fascinating book he wrote about kind of his time in Hollywood that I highly recommend. Yeah. But he was this kind of first agent that really started the kind of packaging. We hear this term packaging now, where he had his clients and he's like, how can I get all my clients to work? Hey, I have a talented person here, a talented person here. They're my clients. Why aren't they working together? I'm going to do my best to get a lot of my clients work on each other's projects. So Carl Gottlieb was a writer actor who was also one of his clients. And Carl had said to him, hey, I want you to find yourself a role in this script. And I'm going to, Steven's good with it. We're going to give you a role in this script. And, and because you're a writer, maybe you can give some, points. Steven, you want to take a look at it? And he's like, yeah, of course, I'll take a look. And he went through and he said, I'd like to be the,
one of the reporters.
A newspaper
kind of
guy.
Yeah.
He's like the editor of the newspaper, or he's kind of cut out, but he's there a little bit. And they were like, great, we'll shove you through casting real fast and we'll get you in there. And then Steven apparently sent him a copy of the script and there was a Post-it note on it. Probably didn't have Post-its then. Yeah. There was a note on it that said, eviscerate it. This is a Carl Gottlieb quote. Oh. And so Carl was very excited, as most screenwriters are, if you're given an opportunity to look through something that's actually being produced and say, oh, here are my thoughts, with the hope that you might get the gig to maybe rewrite or polish it. And he wrote, what they did at that time is he wrote like a 3-page memo of his thoughts on the script. And everybody was jazzed. Zanuck was jazzed, Spielberg was jazzed, but they were still kind of playing coy. So they said, hey, Spielberg has to go to Boston to see a lot of local actors and extras. It's going to be there for a little bit of time. Would you mind going out to Boston with him and you guys can chat together? No, because you're going to have to go to Vineyard anyway because you're going to be in the film. So you guys can chat. So, he's getting himself ready, apparently. He's telling his wife, okay, I'm just going to go for a few days. And then the next day they called with the offer. And they said, you got a week to do a kind of polish on the script. And he was like, great, gangbusters. So he quit his job. He was a story editor for the TV show called The Odd Couple, which I loved. I don't remember the reruns you probably saw. Yeah. The Neil Simon play that became the TV series. Right. He quit the job and he was like, fantastic, I'm going to do this thing. And he and Steven had a great rapport, worked like all night long on different things. And, he put this draft together. And that particular draft he did take out, there was a mafia subplot with the mayor.
Oh, wow.
Which
Okay.
I didn't know about until just, doing some research for this.
Wow.
And he, tightened a bunch of things up, and, there was always that long monologue about the Indianapolis. And he had also tightened that up a little bit, but, he put it into pretty good place.
Is it true that most people get attacked by sharks in 3 feet of water, about 10 feet from the beach?
Yeah. What we are dealing with here is a perfect engine, an eating machine.
We're not only going to have to close the beach, we're going to have to hire somebody to kill the shark.
Steven Spielberg has a bunch of friends at this time. You've heard about this kind of gang of friends. You probably there's George Lucas, there's Zemeckis,
Right.
there's Bob Gale, there's Milius, and he has them all read it once Gottlieb has done this draft.
Yeah.
And they all bring in points and they all give little notes. And so apparently Milius had some notes on the monologue, and because of that, and because there's this rumor that Milius was someone who was on the phone. Have you heard this rumor?
No.
He was on the phone when they were shooting the monologue scene with Robert Shaw about his time in the service at the Indianapolis, and he was dictating lines over the phone. There's this whole myth about how he's the guy behind this monologue, and it was so interesting to hear Carl Gottlieb's POV, because he said, "Well, I didn't write it to start with. That was Sackler. I'm going to give him credit, So I'm not saying it was me. So you can believe me here that I was there when they were shooting it, and it was Robert Shaw who made it his. It
Interesting.
wasn't Millie's. He said Robert Shaw came in one night at dinner a few days before because he was really worried about this monologue, and it was also apparently 2.5 pages single spaced. Like it was.
Jesus.
Like we can feel it, right?
I have to admit, it always makes my eyelids flutter. I'm so sorry.
Oh
I'm so sorry. And it happened. I never told you, but it happened when we were just watching it. I always, it's so long and it's a little monotone for me. People love Quint, and I love that you love Quint. But when he rattles on like that, every time I've seen this movie, I start to fade a little bit. Anyway, that's just me. Continue.
I love your honesty. And that's one of the things I also love about your podcast, and that you're the host here, because I do think there's this feeling of like, how can you say these things about?
I know.
These,
I feel
treasures of
bad.
cinema. But listen, I totally understand. I don't do that in this monologue, but there are times in other films, I just don't know how people keep captivated. I'm not sure why they love certain parts, but we know it's a famous monologue anyway.
Of course, yeah.
And the funny part is that because there was already worries about potential WGA Writers Guild arbitration on the script, Carl Gottlieb also made a lot of notes. And so he remembers, he has the notes about shooting that scene. And he's like, it would have been like 5 a.m. where Milius would have been. So why would he be on the phone? He goes, I did talk to him that day. I did have a note that I talked to him that day. And he was really close with Steven. So maybe they also talked. But he said, I give all credit to anything that wasn't in the original script to Robert Shaw. He goes, and trust me, I want to take credit for everything, but I can't.
Yeah.
And I hope you'll believe me, because I'm not saying, oh, it was me. I'm saying, no, I don't think it was him, nor the original screenwriter. I think it was Shaw who made it his.
Interesting.
But it was very interesting to see how they were really doing what I guess is more and more common in modern cinema. They were rewriting just as they were going and discovering things together when you would get these notes back from friends. So, for example, there was an affair in the original script between Mrs. Brody and Hooper.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I wouldn't have liked that.
Yes. And they said that, when they really saw the actors working together, apparently the, line producer had purposely pushed any of those scenes toward the end of production because they weren't sure what they were going to do yet with it. And it was a little bit unknown. And there's a lot of really great compliments to a lot of the crew in this film, and just surrounding it. They were, even if it was tough and it was kind of indie and it was out of their home base, people were working so hard, really ingenious about how they made things work.
Yeah.
Despite all the problems. But anyway, so ultimately, they were writing things even 2 to 3 nights before and getting them to the actors. But luckily, production design wise, for Joe Alves and for the team, they didn't ever write something outside of the things they'd already organized and had set up. It was more the actual inner part of the scene, what was happening between the characters. There were a few times they needed other actors to come in that might not have been set up for that day. So there was a few times when that might have been an issue, but when it came to, like, they didn't have to build a whole new set or relight something. They were very smart in that way. So, but there, you know, the big question always comes down to, like, how did the cast handle it? And everyone always says these guys were such pros that, you know, you know how it is. You've worked in sets and we've made movies. They have a little time to look over the new stuff.
Yeah, it's not like they're acting from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. They have breaks, you know, but still, you know, just practicing lines at home or wherever is different than, you know, practicing them
being on set
or at, like, your hotel. I mean, it might not be super, you know what I mean? So I still give major credit to performers who can get scenes. You know, we hear that all the time, like, new scenes were printed that morning, you know, like, geez, crazy.
No,
right?
I me too. As someone who's also never been an actor myself, really, I'm amazed at what actors can do with their gift. I don't know how they do it sometimes, and especially under pressure like that. And when I look at the performances in this film across the board, for the most part, I feel like, even with the non-actors, really great acting. There's really I really truly feel like I'm not watching people play. I'm in their, you know, world with them. And
and one kind of not, I guess she's an actor, but we were reading at the museum that she had sort of retired, so she wasn't really acting as much, is the mother of the boy. Oh my gosh.
Heartbreaking.
Great performance.
Fantastic performance. And also just what I love about, I do have a lot of nostalgia for films of especially the 70s and 80s for lots of reasons, because it was you know, as a kid
right
time, but also because you were allowed to be messy. Actors were allowed to look like, you know, not beautiful, with, you know, beautiful skin peels and hair done perfectly. You know, there was allowed to be freckles on camera. There were allowed to be, like, sweat stains in a jacket. And I think now we have a little bit of a crisis of perfection in a lot of our work. And I think it's across, I mean, there's not much one can do, meaning it's just what people feel they have to do for their jobs, as well as to make everything, like, really crisp and beautiful. But it's just so wonderful to see, like, the real, you know, hair messed up and, you know, just nothing is, I just can't imagine that there was any body makeup for Roy Scheider. I just want to say that, like,
yes,
there was someone out there with a, you know,
you're right.
And listen, makeup artists, I love you. You're incredible.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying that you know, I want you to work hard and I want you to be on every set, many of you, but now there would be, I think, a lot more worry and concern about all these things that, and I just think that brings the authenticity level up so much.
Totally. You know? When, like, you know, the wind's blowing and, like, so your part is all wonky, but, like, that's what happens when the wind blows, you know, on an island or on the ocean, you know? Yes, totally.
Bad fish, but I'll catch him and kill him.
Did you hear your father? Out of the water now!
This shark, swallow you whole.
It feels very real, and that's why I don't make fun of the shark at all. I know there are people that are like, oh, it looks fake. I don't know. I just saw it again. I've seen this movie probably at least 10 times. That shark is terrifying. It always works for me, right? So, you know.
Absolutely. And I feel like, you know, really being critical about it this time, knowing we were going to talk about it, you know, really looking at it and thinking about it, it to me is so much more interesting, even if it's a little mechanical, than some of the CGI stuff. Although, I mean, I'll say I haven't watched too many recent shark films to see how they're doing in terms of the CGI. But I'm thinking about all the stuff in the aughts,
right?
And, you know, in the early aughts that I was checking out. I just, kudos to all those folks who were trying to make that stuff work.
Yeah. And a lot of them were locals. I was reading that, like, I guess, especially for, like, the sort of design team, a lot of them were local people designing the sharks. There were 3 sharks, you know, and I was reading, like, one was the one that turned left, the other one was the one that turned right, you know, so, like,
I know.
God, such crazy, you know, and of course, we now know there's the play, the shark is broken, because, you know, some of these sharks would break and hold things up. And now we know that the shark was supposed to be in the film much more, but it works out great that a lot of it is implied, maybe just a fin. You know, we're not seeing the actual shark for some time. And then even when we do see it, it's not like it's in every scene. Pops up every now and then in really, you know, shocking, chilling ways, right?
Oh, yes. And I think that it'd be a great thing for a lot of younger filmmakers to learn and think about. I mean, of course, Spielberg had a lot of very recent influence, you know, with a filmmaker, of course, like Hitchcock, who in Psycho was not showing us the knife going into flesh, was not showing even the, you know, full figure of the murderer, you know, in Psycho. Right. But there's such impact to that scene and such horror. And I think that, you know, we rely now so much, and you're such a horror fan and a filmmaker who loves to make horror films, that I'm sure too, it's sometimes easier to just be like, oh, I'm just going to show, you know, I'm going to eventually reveal the thing and it's going to be this, and you're going to use it that way. And that makes sense because, you know, it is scary and terrifying to see things, you know, to witness things. But I just love when there's a happy mistake like this, something that was so hard for them. And, you know, made Spielberg have to just rely on so much that he'd known and understood about, you know, editing and building a scene. And
right. And what's kind of great is, and maybe this was always the plan, who knows, but like what's kind of nice is not seeing the shark as much, you know, it makes us actually pay attention more to the victims, or to, you know, like there are those two guys in that really, I forgot how creepy that scene is on the dock, you know, and we think like that's a great scene that I completely forgot about for whatever reason. I don't remember that well, but we really kind of pay attention to either the victims or the almost victims more, you know, people of different ages. And you kind of, or at least I kind of also really focus on the mayor, who is like the human villain,
antagonist,
right? You know, you got the shark in the water, and you got the shark on land, and the mayor. What a great role! If I was asked to be in this movie, I'd be like, yeah, I want to play the mayor, because I don't know, I feel for him, like I get it, but like, oh, and then how he has his kind of fall from grace, and he realizes way too late, like, oh man, I did mess up, you know. What an interesting role. And I feel like Alien, the whole Alien franchise kind of does this too, like kind of corporations, they're the real villain, like sort of here's like this town, the money coming in for 4th of July. Well, tomorrow's 4th of July, you know, like we got to have that beach open, right? It's the money, it's the activity, it's the tradition he's putting people in danger. Like that really like hit me on this latest rewatch, you know, on the Vineyard, was all that stuff. Desperate to keep things going. Don't rock the boat on that end, you know, really good stuff. I love that character. I know he's a dick, but I think he's got some really interesting things to do, and puts Brody in such a tricky spot, and the townsfolk. I mean, it's stressful, right?
Yeah. The conundrum of, I think everyone is being put into such a specific conflict, even within their own decision making, that it's not just that they're in each other's way. It's also that they're mentally in their own heads. So Brody's in his head. I mean, and I think Spielberg does an amazing job of showing that, like with that brilliant scene with his son at the dinner table.
Oh yeah.
And the scene with the mayor too, where he's having those moments. What a great actor. Just one of those character actors from that time period who just was so great in so many things he did. But he definitely had that, you know, moments where you see him working in his head when he's trying to decide, yes, keep the beach, like, you know, he's also struggling with himself, and then they're in each other's way, you know, where they're opposed. And I just think, wow, like you said, it really keeps a dynamic tension consistently, and allows them to be really interesting characters that are, you know, morally questionable.
That one line, I mean, he has some great lines, but one line I do really like is the Barracuda line.
I don't think you appreciate the gut reaction people have to these things. You yell Barracuda, you're racist, huh? You yell shark, we've got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July.
I find that upon rewatch and as I get older, and I realized in trying to remember when I first saw this film, I really don't.
You're reading my mind. I was going to say, I need to ask you
really?
that. Perfect.
Yeah, I feel like I couldn't pinpoint a time when I could say this was my first. I feel like it really just lived in my world. As soon as I was in the world, I knew Jaws.
Yeah.
Amity is a summer town.
I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania, and we definitely were a town, a TV watching town. Even if we didn't have cable, it was a TV watching town. And I feel like there was a time period, especially in the early 80s and into the late 80s, where Jaws would be on a regular channel on the weekends.
Yeah.
Pretty frequently.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. I don't know if there was something going on or it was just so popular that they would put it on different times. But I feel like I remember so distinctly with my cousins, it being on their TV in their house. Yeah. I was very young, and everyone being like, "Oh, you can't be watching it. You're too young." But I remember just knowing all these details about it, knowing about the shark, knowing that there's a shark loose, knowing it's a movie that you shouldn't watch when you're, it's scary. And then, thinking about it later, I feel like it really wasn't until sleepovers started happening when we started to really seek out jumping horror type films. And my group of friends, it was, we wanted to be scared at our sleepovers. I'm not sure about your sleepovers.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure. Right. And then Jaws became something that would be more on rotation, depending on whose house you were at or what was going on. So I would tend to pick a Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th. Like I really liked the, slasher films as a kid.
Yeah, because Jaws is a tricky sleepover movie if you're like a true teen. Because I mean, a lot of it went over my head the first few times I saw it. It's very talky and it's very adult, But yeah, you're thinking like the fun.
Yeah, for me personally.
horror.
But I had a lot of friends, like my friend across the street, Monica. Shout out to Monica.
Hey, Monica.
She listens to this. She's the kind of friend who sleepover with her was The Exorcist.
Oh,
it's going to be hardcore. Yeah. She's a little older than me.
Okay.
She was always going just that much, or it would be something like that I had like a Return to Oz. It would be something that I wouldn't have necessarily seen myself. And then I got to film school, and of course, it was the first time I realized what art really was in the film. I mean, when you're young and small and you're just having fun, having jump scares like I still have when there's the discovery of the fisherman's head.
Yes.
Boat. I still jumped. You felt me.
It was great. I felt you. I heard you.
It felt me jump.
It was great. I loved it because I knew I had my phone ready. I'm like, it's coming right now. So I knew,
it was coming,
and you knew.
I still know the exact second, so I still jump. But when I got to film school, I recognized all the craft and the skill and the talent that went into making those moments so powerful. And same even too with some of the bigger horror franchises now, like Alien, which as a kid was just another one of those shockers. We'd watch it for the shock.
Yeah.
And then I learned later just wonderful like screenwriting craft, filmmaking craft.
Yes.
So it was wonderful to have it kind of grow into understanding.
Yeah.
What a strong film it is, and then to find that kind of renewed love over time.
Your brain, when you first see it, usually when you're younger, you're remembering the kills, the tension, the suspense, and so you're thinking of that, the shock, the fun, and then the more you actually like watch it, really study it, whether on your own or in school, then you realize like, oh, it works so well, not only because of those great shocks, but because of all the other stuff in between. A bad horror movie, the shocks don't get us because other things aren't working. You know what I mean?
Oh,
so
such a good point.
Right.
And that, speaking of those kind of other things, one of my favorite scenes that I feel like it's a sequence of scenes that I can't get enough of. I've rewatched it now since we saw the film at the 50th, is the first time Brody goes into his office. And it's this whole sequence of him getting the actual medical examiner to tell him that it's shark. And he then has to rush over we don't know what he's doing, but he's getting paints and he's getting boards. He's doing all this in action and all this conflict everywhere. Everything is coming at him at once. And he is just urgent and freaking out. And all these other characters are being introduced very quickly, very specifically. And then it ends up, it lands on the Chappaquiddick ferry. And they're shooting on the ferry, right? It's like such a
great scene,
bravura sequence. And they end up on this ferry and there's like a crowd of of course, mayor and the medical examiner and the newspaper guy, and everybody's on him while they're moving, trying to get to those Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
And I just every time I watch it, I'm so impressed with how much they're doing in terms of weaving together and introducing story and world building so quickly, connecting to what pressure this guy's under being a new sheriff this summer, and the fact that he's really now realizing it's a shark and he's going to do something about it. And now we have this layer of boys in the water, and meanwhile they're trying to get at him while he's trying to save the boys. And I was just like, this is so swiftly done. It's so beautifully shot. It's not one of those scenes that you think of as like the most famous scenes from Jaws, but
right.
After watching it, especially the screenwriting part of me is, absolutely enamored with what they were able to do so well. There's nothing expository. There's nothing arbitrary. Everything has a purpose. Everything is used. And character-wise, too, even the small things, like, remember what do they call the sheriff's? Is it a deputy? The guy.
That guy. Yeah, deputy, I believe.
I should know this from Scream.
Dewey. Mm-hmm. Yep. He's the Dewey.
This is the original Dewey.
Yep.
The original Dewey from Jaws. When he tells the guy, his deputy, to paint the signs as he's going off to go save these boys, right? He says, let the secretary do the printing. I forget her name.
I forget her name too, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
And he goes, well, what about mine? And he goes, let her do the thing. And he just rushes off. And I just thought, again, it's one of those small little things that is so wonderful for character. You get to know just that much more about that deputy, how he wants to be more important, to have more, of a say in his job, and to be respected. And all we need is that tiny, tiny little line.
Yeah.
And we get to have that like extra coloring of that character. Meanwhile, all this other great, conflict is going on. So it's probably a rarity that would be the sequence that folks would talk about in terms of a favorite part. But I think that's the kind of stuff, like you were just saying, that glues it all together, so that when there is real danger in the water and we're really dealing with the shark, we are at a really high level of fear and worry for all, but especially Brody.
Absolutely. I love that you mentioned that sequence, because I'm looking through my notes of what I was typing while we were watching the movie, and because it had been a little bit since I last watched, maybe 10 years, maybe a little shorter, but it had been some time, so I forgot some details. And I absolutely admire that this movie, once we meet our lead, it's moving. Literally, he's physically moving, right? But the story, and what a great way, because a lot of older movies, you have the iconic opening, of course, with our girl Chrissy, poor Chrissy, just trying to get lucky and go skinny dipping with this guy who drunkenly falls asleep on the beach. I mean, like, thanks, buddy, right? But so you have the iconic opening, but so many movies can then take their time and it's getting a little slow. Not really, right? Now, what a great way to meet him. And there's already trouble. He's already kind of behind and catching up, both literally and with knowledge of this incident, and it moves. I love how fast we're like, oh wow, okay, it started. Like, it's not like you can now kind of like zone out for a minute until like the next kill. No,
there are moments in the film that I think are allowed a little bit more time.
Yeah,
than maybe some of our current films are allowed. Like that great moment on the beach you mentioned, which to me is probably one of my favorite cinematic moments in the film, is when he's looking out there, and just how the sound editing, the score, everything going on there, and it's just so fantastic. But I think that if you don't care about Brody, if you're not connected to the problems that he's facing, as our protagonist, even in just the kind of way of just a general, like, oh God, how's this guy gonna save folks? You don't have the ability there to be as, it's like doubly worrying because now it's all on his shoulders and we can feel it and how it's shot. And yeah, I just think the more and more we can remember how important the world building is and setting up a protagonist who is already someone who has something to prove. Like he's already coming into this going, I hope I can make the summer work because we moved here.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you know, a great way. I hadn't really caught this before. One of the first lines his wife says in bed, they're kind of making fun of the Boston accent. So what a great way to very quickly show us, like, okay, they're outsiders, they're newbies.
Yes.
You know, they speak the same language, they're together, like they're kind of making fun of these now neighbors, you know, together. So what a great fast way for us to laugh, but for us to understand, okay, yeah, Boston Yard, okay, we're here now, right?
Especially in our first sequence, the first 10 to 12 pages of a feature screenplay. Like we really got to be getting right into the thick of things. Maybe not right into the full big problem. Like obviously for them, it's like, will they or won't they shut the beach because of the mayor? I mean,
right.
He knows the problem very early on and he believes it, but he has to get that kind of going. But just you have to be so thoughtful about how quickly you get into who the characters are and what they want in this particular story. Especially the protagonist. And a lot of folks, they dawdle. They love to dawdle. They love to, like you said, people love we have a wake up scene in this film, which I have a pet peeve of.
Oh yeah.
The whole good old wake up, brush your teeth. What do you do in the morning? But like you said, this is a different story. This is a wake up scene where we get character development immediately. We're learning. We're our ears are perked immediately. And, we're getting helpful story info about who these people are.
None of man's fantasies of evil can compare with the reality of Jaws.
Yeah, and also I have to say, I forgot, the deaths actually are not as spaced out as I remembered. Like, that moves too, because we have the dog. What was it? Tippet? I just remember the boy Tippet. Pippin? Yeah, Pippa? Yeah, something like that, right? He's shouting, and that dog's gone, right? And then there's the boy, going back to the mom, like that's, with the bloody float and all that. That, I mean, such, I would say, one of, like, to kind of go back and forth here, a favorite scene or just favorite shots are, I love how close the camera is on many of the people in the water, and how when they're getting out, we're just seeing a lot of bodies and kind of not seeing details, and we are there with them in the chaos. That is so effective, so smart to be right there, right on the line of the water, and all of this. Right?
I love that. I absolutely love that line of the water. Yeah. It really puts you there. That's another scene I also really love, though, is the fake out. I absolutely love the fake out, and I love that he made me do it moment. And I think also just as a precursor to understanding, one of the things I think that Spielberg, we have to give him credit for is his work with kids and how he truly, kids are allowed to be kids, and they are, fully three-dimensional characters. And just even that small moment there, it's like, again, like they're not kid acting.
Right.
And none of the kids in his next few films will be kid acting. Yeah. And there's just something so refreshing about it. And I just also love in any horror film, honestly, when there's a fake out situation like that. I mean, we now kind of go over the top with a lot of fake out to fake out to fake out. But this being one of the kind of original fake outs, I just think it's such a great sequence.
It's so great. And to see what they're seeing, like this guy with like the gun or what, the harpoon, or like right there looking at the camera, it's a great scene. And if I remember correctly, there's it's a fake out, but then the shark really is nearby, because that's when he kills, right? So like,
it's so good.
It is actually really good, because again, I just thought, okay, fake out, and then like the next day, it's like, no, the shark actually is just over there, because then the girl's starting to scream like, Oh, God. And that's, I believe, if I remember correctly now, that's kind of when we're seeing the shark for the first time get the guy with, and so Brody's son, talk about a beautiful shot and talk about great kid acting. I think the actor that played his son has passed away, but that beautiful shot of his shocked face, the close up in the water, holy cow, like that could have been the poster. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah, it's so effective, and it's so a true. I don't know how they got that reaction from him, but it's such a honest, terrified, confused reaction.
Yeah.
And
I wonder if like Spielberg was like in the water, just right there with him, just talking him through it. You know, like because it's so good. It's not too much. It's not like he's like, like
it's really great. It's
gosh.
I kept I was marveling consistently through this watch, knowing we're going to talk just how like wonderful, as I said before, so many of all the performances are of all the non-actors as well as the actors.
Yes.
I just kept, you forget sometimes. We see so many films and television shows where we do get some, mediocre kind of acting, and it's not necessarily the actor's fault.
Right.
Totally. It can be the words, it can be the director. And I just think all these elements were coming together in this film to allow these non-actors to shine.
Hey Rewinders, I'm pausing our chat for just a moment to say thank you and to shine a spotlight on some other folks. Check out other fun pods on the You Run Podcast Network, like The Reaction Shot, hosted by Dave Herman. Dave also talks about classic movies in each episode, much like me, and he brings on a guest who's never seen that movie before, so we hear their fresh reactions versus his seasoned fandom. His recent episodes focus on What Lies Beneath, one of the best, plus he also chats with costume designer Mona May like I did a few years ago, and he just had Art the Clown himself, David Howard Thornton from the Terrifier franchise, on his show, so check that out. Now, everyone, back to 1975 to keep celebrating Jaws. Here are more friends of mine who wanted to take a bite out of this masterpiece. I guess that wasn't really a shark sound, but you know what I mean. Here are the Kaufman family who hosted me in Martha's Vineyard in a roundtable love fest, sharing their love for Bruce the Shark, and also my friend and playwright Tommy Jamerson. We're going to need a bigger boat for all these great voices.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
Here they are with their cameos.
So Mark, we'll start with you.
My name is Mark Kaufman, and I do love the Jaws movie. The screening was extra special because I think it was on Martha's Vineyard with a bunch of other Martha's Vineyard people, outside like a drive-in movie with a live orchestra, people cheering probably like they did in the original. It was just an elevated experience. I love Quinn. So Quint.
Oh my God, you're okay.
I call him Quinn, and anytime he's on screen is my favorite.
You like the troublemaker, yeah. Oh yeah. Like Quinn. Oh, my name's Jack Fallon. Actually, I remember it vividly. My dad used to have, I think it was the 30th anniversary, or maybe 30th anniversary CD of Jaws. Oh. So it was the old CD that had 30th. I remember seeing it distinctively. So wow. I was maybe, I don't know, 6, 7 maybe. I was really young.
Were you freaked out?
Oh yeah. I remember I think I started crying, or I had to turn it off almost, because when they were pulling the tooth out of I forgot his name's the boat. Oh. Ben Gardner, that's it. His boat. And they saw dead Ben Gardner. That got me pretty bad. But,
are you afraid to go into the water or no?
No, I mean I was okay. I think, but I remember.
But you did collect a lot of shark teeth.
Oh yeah. I mean I remember when I used to go down to South Carolina, when I was real young, I used to always collect shark teeth and all that. It's been because we've been going to the Vineyard. I mean since we were babies, basically. You were born. Yeah, I was born, and it's been we watch it here every year. I mean it's a big thing.
It's a way of life.
Yeah. My name's Emma. The first time I saw Jaws was 2 years ago here in the basement.
Oh wow! I showed it to her. Okay.
Yeah.
She never watched it.
I heard of it, but I didn't even know what it was about or anything. So yeah.
So what'd you think? Were you bored, or were you pretty captivated?
No, he actually got me on the jump scares. Oh. Every time he would scare me before them.
Yeah. The opening's so good.
The opening is good. I think about the the part where the police officer kills the shark. Sorry.
Oh yeah. At the end. Oh, the big explosion.
Yeah.
Right. He saves the day.
Doesn't somebody die though?
Oh, there's definitely
Yeah.
There's definitely some
during
death.
the explosion. Oh, the part that I remember the most is the dog when the dog dies.
Oh.
Pippet. No one. What was the dog?
Say it louder.
It's Pippet. That's the dog's name.
Yes.
When the dog dies.
Talks about that poor dog.
I was always like, that always got me. I was like,
You tricked me and you were like, that dog's gonna be in the whole movie. Just you wait.
Yeah.
And then it
Oh
died.
my God.
My name is Christy. I was too young to see Jaws in theaters. These guys weren't born yet.
Yeah, you were
but
really
I
too
was.
young.
It came out in '75, so I was 5. But I think we started vacationing in the Vineyard. I don't know, in the late 70s, whenever.
Yeah.
Late 70s. And I don't think we knew at that point that Jaws was filmed there, but I think I saw it as a teenager or something, and I made the connection between the Vineyard and being like a lifelong Vineyard person. I think that one of the coolest things about the 50th anniversary is meeting all these locals that they didn't have big roles, or maybe it was the back of their head, or this the girl today that was talking about the flute.
The flute girl.
Yeah. So she was in like the band in the 4th of July, and they were performing today at like a Jaws reunion thing, and she was like, she just posed with her flute. She's like, this is what I look like. So I think that's been the most fun part for me at being such a lifelong Vineyard person, and the people who actually lived here and who were part of the experience and talking to them, they still have such a thrill over it 50 years later, whether they were kids or whether they were 20 or whatever. And so I think for me, that's the most fun part. And then watching last night, so Cece was right in front of me, and that scene with Ben Gardner in the boat, and I sympathize because I forget every freaking time. And I thought it was hysterical that Cece was like, ah! And she's like such a movie buff. Yeah, that she...
I remember like, it was sometime we were here for Christmas, and we watched it, because they play it every Sunday in Edgartown.
Yeah, well, we went to Edgartown,
And we watched it. And Mrs. Kaufman was sitting right next to me, and when it happened, she jumped like so bad. It scared me because I'm like used to it, so it doesn't scare me that much anymore.
Her jump scared
She
you.
jumped like so bad.
She jumped so hard it scared you.
It like ricocheted onto me. It was crazy.
Not only was it the first summer blockbuster, but it changed the island. Which some people would say for good or for bad, but it changed the island, and it's just been really fun.
How many times have you seen the movie now, would you guess?
I think I've seen it like 5 times or something.
Okay, all right, 5.
Only 5?
All right, what about you, Mark? 5 times or more?
All the way through?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably
Once?
4 or 5 times all the way through.
All the way through.
30, 40 times when you catch it on TV and you leave it on.
Ever since when I first watched it, I'd watch it every summer, but I remember sometimes I definitely would watch it more.
Wow.
Like my older brother Connor, he can say every line in the movie.
Wow.
No joke.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Hey there. So why is Jaws my favorite movie of all time? My go-to, my desert island movie, the one that I can quote more than all the others? I honestly don't know. I do love sharks because, they're sharks. They're cool. But it's so much more than that. It's the first movie I remember being terrified at. I was 7 years old and watching it on television. And I remember that night, my father trying to get me to take a bath and being so scared knowing that Bruce the shark was going to come up through the drain somehow and get me. It's a movie that I think is relatable to all of us on some human level. It's a movie you can analyze to death. Is it about masculinity? Is it about man versus nature? Is it about greed? Is it a political film? I think it's a movie that gets under your skin and makes you feel in a way that very, very few movies do. And let's be honest, it's got a killer soundtrack thanks to John Williams.
That's a 20-footer. 25. 3 tons of them.
Knowing how tricky, how complicated this shoot was and all the things I had to do, that's why I think I'm also more amazed and about the performances because, I feel like it was probably a lot of stopping and starting, especially the water stuff.
Wow, yeah, you're right on the money there. Yeah, all the stopping and starting and how, for everyone, but especially performers in a horror film, you're kind of working yourself up and then it's like, okay, the shark, it's like, oh, okay. And then, it's working. Okay. I just imagine, you got to get to these places.
Yeah.
and get there
it,
again.
It was when it started to become a little off season. It was cold. That New England water, especially north where they are, it's not going to stay warm.
Totally.
It's not like
It probably was rarely warm, even because I believe, I know they went, 100 days over? Is that what
Yes.
right? Oh my God, that's wild. That is like, oh my God, I'm so stressed just thinking of that. But no, I was reading, because they started filming in like April-ish, I want to say, of 74. So spring, so that water is freezing, right? So springtime, June, I mean, the water's not warm.
It got a little bit more high in temp, but not
maybe
here.
July, August, maybe September, it's okay. But man, I mean, the kids, they make it look fun when they're all just like lounging in the water. Meanwhile,
really
my
do.
God, I'd be blotchy from the cold water. I mean, my skin would be like,
I shiver very quickly. Like I'm not very good at faking.
Oh, well, sometimes, especially when you're cold and you're trying to fake warmth, it just, you cannot fake it. Like it comes out even worse. You're really trying to, so yeah, it's really, and I believe they were filming until, did I read somewhere like, kind of like they were there until like November or something?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Whenever you shoot on location, everything is a question mark because you don't have any way to control anything. And we're mostly independent filmmakers, so we know what it's like to shoot on location. It's kind of all we know.
Yeah.
I've never made a film that was, at a studio, or, I'd love to do that. I'd love to see what that's like, but
wow. It feels honestly so easy. Like I remember standing in for Owen Wilson on James L. Brooks's How Do You Know?
Yes.
And no shade, but like it's in a studio. It's a fake apartment. Like why? How are we still filming this scene?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it's all so easy. It's all right there. I mean, especially for that. I mean, it was a rom-com, but you know what I mean? Like, so I have a little bit of like shade with these nice studios because it's like,
you're like, come on.
Are you kidding? There's no traffic to shush. I mean, you can't hear anything. Get this over with. Why are you still, you know what I mean? Whereas, when we're actually on the street or like actually in some weird building and, it's just like that stuff out of your control. So yeah. Totally. That was a fun little rant. Sorry, James L. Brooks. I really was looking this time. I knew it was coming, but I felt like a kid, like waiting for it. And this is a fun, just technical thing of like the perfection of the technicality, which we know can take many takes and like so many things can go wrong. But when the guys are cutting open I think it's the tiger shark, like to see if maybe they got the shark. We know they didn't. It's not even halfway. Maybe it's halfway through the movie now, but I just love, it's Richard Dreyfuss and Roy's a few like kind of feet back and he's cutting it open. We don't see it, but then we see all the liquid coming out of the stomach on the floor and they're backing up. I just love that because that had to take some practice, some rehearsals. Where's the liquid coming from? How many crew are like now hosing? Like it's probably just water,
I'm sure, yeah.
Right, but like I love that kind of stuff, and I knew it was coming, and I'm just like I wanted to know, like, is it like I just wanted to maybe catch a mistake, but I couldn't. Like is there water coming from that end? Why is it coming from over there? But it's all. I'm sure it was all. These guys are pros, but I just love little nerdy technical stuff like that, and it's fun to see the guys squirm, and it's obviously they're retching and it stinks and they're pulling out like the license plate, all that fun stuff they're pulling out. It's no bodies. It's not the shark, but I do love that scene because it's also after Hooper just briefly met the family, Mrs. Brody, and they're there drinking and it's like, all right, you want to cut this thing, so it's just I like that fun sequence of they're kind of friends. Like they're both maybe kind of a little lonely. We know Hooper's not from here. He's been brought in. So it's a little bit of a nice kind of weird social activity to cut this shark open, which then leads them to the iconic, going into the water and the head popping out and that whole bit,
That was super fun this time around for me too. I wasn't looking like you were. I wasn't looking that way, but I was just thinking about how much I'm affected by what should be very disgusting and smelly in film. Like I mean, since I was a little kid, when I would watch period pieces, even something like, Braveheart. And I would just say, how can they be having like a love story? They must smell terrible. Like I just can't. Such a hard.
Well, you also have a great sense of smell, so you're already like.
I have a really good noggin for that. But that was what I was also really thinking about in that moment is where Shudder is just really doing such a good job making me feel the stench. And same with all the chum. He does a great job of making that all feel so disgusting to him and so smelly to him, and really showing off just how not nautical and hating water and the whole thing that he is. I just thought, keeping that up was a super smart move, and I really felt it. Like as someone who's so sensitive to smell.
Hurry up, he's coming straight for us. Don't split up now. Don't wait for me. Now! Shoot!
I really love a lot of the sequences that are the kind of one-upmanship happening between, Quint and Hooper. And I especially love the kind of, crushing of the beer can and then the crushing of the styrofoam cup.
Which I realized we didn't end up doing at the museum.
I know.
We saw they were doing it. We're like, oh, we'll come around and do that. We didn't get around to it. We were having too much fun.
At the museum, they had a Narragansett who was the one who made the beer that Quint drank in the film. They did a 50th anniversary can that looks exactly like the can in the film. And then they had this funny setup at the reunion where you could be in a kind of a backdrop and you could crush the can. And we just never got around.
Yeah, we're like, oh, we'll come, we'll do a lap, we'll come back around, but we just got so carried away with all the other good stuff. So speaking of the kind of one-upping between the characters, it also seemed like the actors, right, were not so simpatico, right?
I have to say, listeners out there, if you could do 3 full podcasts alone, like series on Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss's relationship. I just saw a clip today on JP. Yeah. Now, they were contentious the whole way through. Apparently, Shaw did not respect Dreyfuss very much. It was very connected to how they were in the film. Shaw was apparently quite a drinker and had a very specific thought on how things should go. And Dreyfuss had his own ways. He's also apparently he's a bit of a pisser. He likes to get people's goat. So, I mean, it's great casting in terms of what you get on the chemistry on screen. But I just saw this clip today because we saw all these clips of Dreyfuss just saying all this terrible stuff about Shaw. And then he had that great, wonderful quote when he came out at the 50th screening. He was there.
Right. He showed up.
Second. And he came out and maybe you can remember the quote for me. He said, "I'm the only one alive and I'm the only one relevant." And the thing that we were so shocked is there was at least 60% of the people at the screening were also in the film. Yeah. And we were like, way to go, Richard. But, I saw this clip today it's why I was thinking it should have its own podcast. Totally. Because he was in Ireland doing an interview in the 90s. And it was a clip about how the interviewer of this talk show said, we know you had a contentious relationship with Mr. Shaw. And we got a call from his granddaughter earlier. And she said, I'd really love to meet Mr. Dreyfuss. And so we asked her if she could come here today. And when you met her backstage, you got really emotional. And Richard Dreyfuss can't contain. He's almost in tears just hearing the story back again. Oh, wow. And he said, "Why were you so emotional?" And then he started talking about the closure and this great experience and everything else. And I thought, wow, what a roller coaster of a relationship this really was. If you kind of were to look at it from Robert Shaw's history and Dreyfuss coming in as a new actor coming up in his career and an established actor, and this rivalry they had kind of on this, and then how the rivalry kept going after the film and how they would just shit talk each other for years. Weird. And then having this moment with this young granddaughter and just breaking him down.
Weird.
I know. So it's just fascinating. So I just wanted to say, I also feel like, by the way, disclaimer, there are Jaws experts out there. There are people that know every little detail about this film.
Oh, yeah.
We are just fans. We are not expert. So please, you're going to correct us. We're going to say things wrong. That's fine.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to say to all of you, I love you for being experts, but we are just lovers of the film and are happy to talk about it. Right. But I'm sure even me trying to describe that clip, somebody's going to say, "That's not what he said." No. In the comments, but
it is so fascinating because, and I do really want to see that play. I don't know enough about it, but I would assume part of that feud must come up. Definitely. Right? I would think, right? So that is so interesting. Yeah, and we know, and not only just from what we heard at the screening with Richard Dreyfuss, but it seemed like he was sort of already a hot shot, and he kind of wanted to needle people and and Shaw, I guess, yeah, just. And it's interesting. I was reading that Lorraine Gary.
Yeah, there she is. Mm-hmm.
I read a just like a silly article recently in the last few days that she actually had a major crush on Shaw, on Robert Shaw. She was like, he was so like exotic, so foreign, so strong. Like she was really, fantasizing about Robert Shaw, which I just thought was funny. And kind of goes back to that interesting trivia you brought up. Not that their characters had the affair, but just kind of a fun little connection there. I can't imagine her having an affair with Hooper. That's weird. I don't know. Maybe if it was a TV series, if they ever bring Jaws back, which they shouldn't, as a TV series, there's some extra stuff you could do there, but I just don't know. I don't know. I really do like the Brodies together,
Yes, I do.
They already got
too.
Enough kind of inner, where do we belong, where is home kind of stuff that, I don't know.
I can't hold it! Hurry!
Man, Quint's death. Holy crap.
It's so amazing.
And I knew it's brutal, but that is true horror movie, because I'm sure some people out there, is this a horror movie? Is it not? But there's no denying that is terrifying. It's bloody. It is violent and visceral. He is screaming. I mean, talk about a scream king. Wow. You can feel his pain, not even shock anymore, because there are those screams where it's a lot of it's shock. It's no, he is screaming in agony as his legs are in the mouth. I mean, wow. What'd you think of that? Do you remember seeing that part for the first time at all, or not really?
I do. I think that the whole climax for me, when I was young, was one of these situations where I really felt the constant one-upmanship of it, where I just thought it can't be that much more horrible or scary or violent, and then the next thing would happen. And I really did think. I remember as a little kid, because you don't remember everything when you watch. There was a time period where I really remembered everyone dying as a kid. I don't know why I had this. Maybe because Quint's death was so violent. I didn't remember the raft moment. I just kept being like, oh my God, everyone dies. Because I think maybe I missed moments when Richard Dreyfuss is still below.
Right.
He's alive.
Yeah, because he kind of disappears. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I didn't remember till maybe middle school or high school that there was actually two of them survived, and there's a saving moment. Right. And I was like, oh, here I thought it ended on this super dark existential place of nobody survived.
Yeah.
And then I realized, it does have this kind of, almost sweet ending of them on the raft, and we really do feel like they're not in danger anymore.
Yeah. Also, I have to say, and we even, I think, said it in person after the screening, it kind of ends abruptly. It's we don't even see family reunited. We don't see the mayor. It's over. Yeah. The studio's okay, shark's dead. So cut to credits.
I know. And, I think about it a lot in terms of how I set up something and how I pay it off in my feature work. And I think most screenwriters are thinking about how you pay something off. And I do think that this is beautiful ending in its own way. It definitely has that last breath energy of all right, you don't need to see everything else. But I think because of the time they spent with his family and the time they spent with the mayor, maybe it's not that they have reached them yet, but we get a sense of their kind of ending. And maybe, I know there's critics out there would say, it's perfect as it is and don't think about how you might change it. But it really did occur to me this time that it was especially those really personal moments with his, Brody and his wife and his children, and the danger of it, to not see at least a sense that she knows he's going to be okay, maybe, or something like that. But you know what I realized, and I didn't get to tell you this, so I'm glad we get to talk about it today. In a modern film, I think there's no way that producers and execs wouldn't push the writer or director to kill the mayor.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Don't you think?
That's so
because there would have to be the oh, we got you, the man. You're
yeah, because he's the man.
You've been wanting this the whole time.
You get what you wish for, be careful what you wish for. Yeah. That's so interesting. I'm glad he doesn't, because in my perfect ending, because of course the ending's perfect, but I don't know, I envision I don't think it would I don't think it would kill anything, but I don't know, I see a bunch of people on the edge of the land looking for them, then they're in an emergency boat coming back. We see wife holding the kids, and all she needs to say is just literally oh, thank God. Oh, just over and over. Thank God. Thank God. And maybe they hug. I don't know. Maybe this is too on the nose. I don't know, but he gets out, maybe they hug. And just in the near distance is the mayor, just stunned and feeling embarrassed and mortified. And he's done, So yeah, part of me would love to kill the mayor, and you're so right, because I didn't think about that, but you're right. He's got to pay the price for his terrible choices. Yeah. But I think it's worse if he does it, and now he's going to be exiled. He'll be fired. He'll be exiled. He'll be kicked out of the island, But yeah, I just envision him almost in the distance, watching them hug and cry and just say thank God. And I don't know, maybe Brody kind of just gives him a look, and he doesn't even know what,
Yeah, you don't have to have dialogue.
No. And it doesn't even need to be a very strong look. It could literally just be eye contact.
Yeah.
And it's I'll talk to you later.
You know what you did.
Right? I don't think that would make it worse, but I don't know. Maybe it's
can I tag on your perfect ending? I'm going to tag on one small scene that can give us the same feeling as the raft, maybe, is that after that homecoming, not laborious, not lots of dialogue, just visuals of coming back up and living and surviving and people recognizing that they did and the shark is gone. Then you have a moment. Let's go back to the beach bonfire scene in the beginning, but it's just Brody and Hooper on the beach by a fire, and they're sharing one little tug of apricot brandy.
Wow. Oh yeah.
And it's
I like that.
A goodbye and kind of a small, probably very snide thank you.
Yep. And it could, and yeah, I'm envisioning maybe cameras behind them. We don't even need to necessarily see their faces, right?
Exactly.
We get it. We know where they are.
And maybe there's a little kind of small joke where, Dreyfuss goes, oh, but he drinks it anyway.
Yeah.
I feel that gives you that same sweetness.
Yeah.
If you want to kind of end it with that,
and it honors, someone who was pivotal in the killing of the shark, right?
So basically, this is our pitch ending for when we pitch the TV series to HBO, right?
Limited series.
HBO Max, excuse me.
Yes, HBO Max. Yep, you're so right. Oh my God. Or maybe it'd have to be Hulu because they're doing this Nat Geo doc that comes out in a few days. Maybe it's a Hulu. I don't know, right? But you're so right, because it's going to have to be a little different. Yes. And there, with a show, you got to spend more time with everyone. Yes, that actually would be a really beautiful ending. He was a handful. We butted heads.
Yeah.
Right.
But he lost his life just for us to be here.
Yeah.
A little bit of a moment. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised, knowing the way the industry is, that we won't get some kind of reboot.
Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss, Jaws. See it before you go swimming.
I did learn that Carl Gottlieb, who did, was credited with writing this, the Jaws, he also wrote Jaws 2 and Jaws 3D.
Oh.
But he also wrote things like The Jerk.
That's so interesting. Wow, he's done a lot. He's done more than because you don't hear that name a ton.
No, and I really didn't know much of his history.
It's funny. I was doing just a little bit of easy research on the sequels. We know they're not nearly as great and memorable as the original, although Jaws 2 does have one of the best taglines, which was just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. That's from Jaws 2.
So fantastic.
And I feel like that comes up in conversation at least once a week. You hear someone say just when so and people do actually have said that Jaws 2 is not as terrible as they thought back then. Age kind of makes things not so bad, but Jaws 3D apparently really is, and 4 with Michael Caine, we were saying, was just awful.
And the idea of, I guess it was such a thing at the moment, the 3D,
of course,
boon.
Yeah.
But it is just so funny. Anything 3D most likely probably isn't that great, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, because it's just so gimmicky, right? I'd have to really think. Maybe some things, but when you have a sequel that's in 3D, I mean, it's just all about the money, right? But I do have to say, not only was this, of course, the first summer blockbuster, the first blockbuster, but it is interesting because I feel like I was surprised when I was doing some quick looking at the sequels. Jaws 2 came out in 78, only 3 years later. So this really did kind of start the modern blockbuster franchise because, there are so many movies where it's like 10 years later they did a sequel, right? This was very fresh. They didn't sleep on this for too long. And then the remaining ones, it was like every 3 to 4 years. So I just thought that was interesting because I figured like, oh, what was it like 1985, 10 years later? No, by 87, the fourth one was out. So they moved quickly. It's pretty quickly, not as quickly as some of these franchises can where it's like once a year, of course, but they moved fast. So I just thought that was, some interesting trivia looking at the franchise as a whole,
Yeah, and I just looked up because I remembered this being from the era that the Star Wars movies were also coming out very quickly. And they're between like 3 and 5 years in between them. And I think that was absolutely influenced too by this, is that they were like, oh, when we have something and it's successful, we should really like start popping more of them.
Ride the wave. Yeah,
exactly. Ride that wave.
I was terrified I was going to be fired, but I never once felt like I wanted to quit.
This particular film shifted so much that what it did for the film industry in terms of commerce and business, what it did in terms of merch. Remember how much we saw just in the museum of they were wearing Jaws t-shirts on set.
I was truly surprised by that because like you don't even really see that happen much nowadays.
No.
And this was 50 years ago. And again, that's why I'm just like, man, there was so much pressure. Like there's Steven Spielberg, like a picture of him directing with the Jaws logo and a shirt. They're all, I was really surprised by that. It's cool, but whoa.
Yeah. It's a miracle that it worked the way it did. And I think most people that worked on the film and what we heard time and time again from people we met over the weekend was that there was, as much as they were kind, and Spielberg has always been given such praise for being a nice human person and good to know.
Right.
It just seemed like, how could this movie be something that would stand the test of time? It was so many problems, so many things, so many like weather issues and then this issues. And it's just it's totally miraculous that it is what it is. And I was even thinking of it the night we were watching. I thought, wow, the sound work they did, the like on location sound, the diegetic sound, I just can't believe it. Because you know how hard it is on a beach. You've shot things on a beach.
Yes. Oh my God. The wind, the waves, the continuity.
I just think like it was meant to come together in some way, and it then shifted, the landscape of how we look at,
It really did.
Films and cinema.
You just sort of knew what Jaws was. Like you didn't even really need to, much like Psycho, like some of these, especially much like The Exorcist, like they all came out and you already knew like the music or the head turning or whatever. Like you already it was just in pop culture, so that was like Jaws too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just been
part of our lives.
For you and I, and maybe not everybody our age, but if you were a film person, if film was the culture that made you excited, Jaws was ever present.
Totally.
The film that I thought would end my career is the film that began it.
This year on June 20th, Spielberg got a print of the film for himself and he watched it alone. Yeah. And he apparently had a really good time. And the quote in the article was like, he said, "I like it." That was his
I just quote. Read that today too.
Yeah,
I like
it.
Yeah. It was, I guess, like, which is crazy and makes a lot of sense, but it's also kind of crazy. It seemed like it was one of, or his only time watching it, like not like in filmmaker stress brain. It was, he watched it, his own work as like an audience member, right?
Yeah.
He tried. Yeah.
And he was alone.
Yeah, which is surprising. I'm like, Kate Capshaw didn't want to watch it again with you, or like, what was she doing? She's like, "Oh, honey, I'm going out."
Maybe also one of those things where that's how he tried to do it without commentary, to not be thinking of it of remember this and what did you do then? And the interruption, maybe it was just to kind of take it in. But I really love to hear, I get a little sad when I hear about actors and directors not watching their work. I understand you need time away from it. But I understand it's often just for self-preservation. It's hard to not be critical, but I feel like I'm glad he did it.
That was a really sweet article. It works. It's like, you're allowed to say you like it because everyone loves it.
I know.
I mean, Now, everybody, I'm going to just ask, so one of the many other things we got was this cool, magazine. Yep, you got yours too. This fun Jaws 50th, kind of free commemorative, what would you call it? I guess kind of like a booklet. It's like a magazine. A lot of it's ads, but there's really great trivia, old articles, which I thought was really cool. That they actually didn't transcribe, but you can actually read it. You don't have to read an old photo. I thought that was pretty cool. A lot of never before seen photos, really cool stuff. But at the back of this magazine, everybody, it's called "Are You a Jaws Junkie?" And I'm going to ask Cece some questions. Okay, I'm sure you might have even read this. You might know.
I didn't. I actually didn't read the trivia questions. I did read a lot of the articles in the piece. And I thought it was a really great magazine that they put together.
Yeah.
But I just have to say, it's so hard for me being a film nerd to do this trivia because I know I'm going to get a lot wrong.
Whatever. It's all right.
I want to say to the world out there, I am a lover of film and I watch things so much, but I don't retain every single detail.
No, of course not.
I probably retain, something really silly, like a line I really like more than I even.
Totally.
So, I am ready for trivia.
Totally.
I'm not going to look at the magazine just so you guys all know I'm putting it over
Okay,
here.
good. She's hiding that. Okay, great. And I literally got this idea as I opened this website. So I'm like, oh, that could be fun. So I have not really practiced, but I have the answers. It's one of these fun things where you got to turn it upside down to see the answers. All right, everybody, here are some questions. Are you a Jaws junkie? Take a quiz and find out how much you remember from the classic 1975 blockbuster. Here we go, Cece. Number 1, who was Bruce, the name of all 3 of the mechanical sharks used in filming this movie, named after? Who was Bruce named after? Do you know?
Mark, we just saw all this at the museum.
I know. I forgot too, so don't be. This one I did.
We saw a replica of Bruce, and we were reading all about Bruce, and I did read almost all the little, plaques at the museum. But I don't know.
You totally know this, and I do too, and I forgot. So the answer is Steven Spielberg's lawyer, Bruce Ramer.
Yes,
Ramer, right? His lawyer. I love that. What's the title of the song that Quint sings and hums throughout the movie?
Oh no.
I would have no idea.
All ye, is there something about ye in there?
No. I figured there would be, but no. It's 2 words. See, this is the kind of stuff
I have to say, real Jaws fans know every verse of this song.
There are people screaming at you in their cars right now.
Tell us what it is. I'm just gonna.
It's called Spanish Ladies. Did you know? Because I didn't.
I didn't know. I grew up in a house that loved folk music and my grandmother especially, and she's not impressed at the moment.
I would not know this. Maybe you would, but
no.
I'm jumping around. Who did Chief Brody's dog in Jaws actually belong to? Who owned that dog?
I'm gonna say that it belonged to Roy Scheider.
Great guess. It was Steven Spielberg's dog, Elmer.
Oh, cute.
There we go. Oh, you'll know this. The score for Jaws launched which composer's career?
John Williams.
That's amazing. So I should have looked him up. Was this early on in his career?
Yes.
Holy shit. Wow. And he won the Oscar for score, I think, right? Won 3 Oscars.
Best original score.
Yeah.
Best film editing. Best sound mixing.
Oh, this is so easy, but I'll give it to you.
Oh.
Who improvised, which we forgot to say, the most famous line of the movie is improvised, which is just amazing. Who improvised the most famous line in the film, "You're going to need a bigger boat"? I mean, duh.
Roy Scheider. But I have to say, I have a bit of a myth buster here, really fast.
Oh, tell me.
Which is that Roy says in interviews, he did not improvise that line.
Oh.
That, in fact, the crew, it was in the script because the crew was using it as a joke throughout the whole movie when something would go wrong. They would go, we're going to need a bigger boat. We're going to need a bigger boat.
Oh my God. So it was already a saying like.
It was definitely in the script. It might not have been in that moment.
Okay.
in the scene in the script, but it wasn't something that he conjured up of his imagination and said in that moment. It was something that was in the script at one point somewhere, and maybe it was still in there somewhere, but he said it then.
Interesting.
And
I see. So yeah, he didn't improvise. He sort of, what would a better word be? He sort of like,
he used it in a more probably funny, interesting point.
yeah, he moved it.
He moved the line.
Right.
Yeah.
Love that trivia. See, this trivia is out triviaing this trivia. I wrote this down in my notes. So let's see if you know this. See, this is like wink, wink, quintessential trivia. How much money did Quint want to catch and kill the shark in the movie? Do you remember what he says in the meeting?
$10,000.
Yeah. Woo! Ding, ding, ding. What was Hooper's first name in the film?
Oh,
you remember?
David?
Great guess. Matt. Another simple Matt Hooper.
Never. I knew it was a simple name.
Literally
and
he's already like a hipster, like showing up like in his beanie, Matt Hooper, right? Oh, okay. This is a fun one. What now famous film director visited Steven Spielberg on Martha's Vineyard while Spielberg was directing Jaws? Do you know? Director friend visited?
I'm thinking about his friends. So I'm gonna say maybe was it Zemeckis?
It wasn't Zemeckis. It was John Landis.
Oh wow,
that's fun.
That's cool.
Oh, who provided the voice of the radio operator when Mrs. Brody tries to reach her husband on the Orca? Do you know?
No, I have no idea.
Spielberg. I didn't realize his voice is in the movie. That's fun.
Yeah.
That's a good little cameo. Take that, M. Night Shyamalan. Maybe don't take on a full role. This, broke box office records. This was the biggest, most successful financially film of all time until what film surpassed Jaws as the highest grossing film in 1977?
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Yes, exactly. Episode 4, New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There we go.
Woo! So we didn't get a lot of trivia right, but
I mean, they were kind of funky questions.
Yeah, but I feel like
Spanish ladies. Who knew?
It's such the kind of film and its legacy that it makes sense that there's so much trivia and there's so much love for it. And I hope that the experts out there will appreciate just how much we love it.
Totally.
No detail, but that it just is such a great thing to do in this time in our lives is celebrate these films, and that's why I think the podcast is such a fantastic, kind of gift to us because,
that's nice.
Well, yeah, I think it's like it brings back all these great memories, but it also highlights and celebrates these artists and this work that sometimes they're huge like this. Some of the other things that you highlight are, maybe weren't as big at the time, but have lots to talk about. So I just think it's so wonderful we got to do this and got to celebrate the film in all its glory.
Thank you. I know how amazing that not only did we get to do this here, but got to do a lot of this in person where they shot it. I mean, it's been great. It's been so great. Very special time. So that's what it was just so wild is you can make a great movie and you still don't know the life it will continue to have 50 years from now. That's special.
He put everything into it. And when you put everything into it, hopefully you have a little talent, but you put everything into it, hopefully there's going to come some reward. And maybe it won't be as big as Jaws, but you'll have something you're proud of. So I think it's just also a great inspirational tale.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The story on screen is amazing, and the story behind the scenes is really amazing. They could it'd be so cool to see a movie about the making of this movie.
But maybe because of Release Date Rewind, it'll become more clear too that we should be celebrating. We should be having big screenings for anniversaries and have.
Thank you. Right?
People really want to enjoy and be nostalgic about the films they love, and we should.
Thanks everybody for listening to or watching this episode of Release Date Rewind and for supporting indie podcasting. And thank you to my guest, screenwriter, filmmaker, teacher, film scholar, and great friend Cece Webster for sailing with me to Amity and also for inviting me to the Big Jaws 50th weekend this year in Martha's Vineyard. Love that island any time of year, but especially loved it for those fun festivities. So thank you. Thanks also to the Kaufman family, Mark, Jack, Emma, and Christy for their cameos and for their hospitality. And thank you also to superfan Tommy Jamerson as well. Tell your friends and fellow Jaws fans about this episode and follow me on Instagram at Release Date Rewind to see more footage from this fun conversation and from this famous movie. Thanks Straw Hat Media, the You Run Podcast Network, Kyle Motzinger, and the Portland Media Center in Maine. And coming up on Release Date Rewind, everybody, I sit down with a Disney animator in a very special, very nostalgic episode. Until next time.